Hello guys, welcome back to yet another episode of Content Monsters, and in today's episode we're going to review the iPhone 14 Pro Max. Yes, we finally lay our hands on this beauty. It's been almost a month since its launch and we finally got hold of one. Anyhow, I think that is one grouse I have with Apple. They're launching their phones, and like last year it was quite a task to lay our hands on the Pro Max version of the phone because somehow they're not able to gauge the kind of demand that the phone could have, and the waiting period for these phones are just too long. But finally I've got the phone I wanted, I've got the model I wanted, and most importantly I've got the color I wanted. Yes, I lay my hands on the purple iPhone 14 Pro Max with 256 GB storage. This is exactly the piece I wanted, which is in short supply, I must add. First impressions of the phone, easily one of the best smartphones going around. A stunning design, an absolutely amazing display, and great camera. These three features make it easily one of the most stunning smartphones that exist in the market right now. Though I must add here that it comes at a very heavy price. The iPhone 14 Pro Max is at 1,49,999 versus the iPhone 13 Pro Max, which was 1,39,999. In just 1 year they've hiked up their price by around 10,000, but that's the premium you've got to pay for Apple and some of those new additions that they've incorporated this year. What's new in this one? The new 48 megapixel camera, the always on screen, and the dynamic island display are clearly the new welcome additions to the iPhone 14 Pro Max, which is why they're charging this premium of us. The look and feel of the iPhone 14 Pro Max is pretty much on the same lines as the iPhone 13 Pro Max, but the one thing that you'll clearly notice is that the lenses are jutting out far more than the 13 Pro Max, but otherwise it retains the luxurious stainless steel design on the edges. The frosted glass back looks and feels absolutely incredible, and this new color, the purple, which is the new color this year, adds and makes it look that much more glamorous and luxurious. Now, most smartphones nowadays do have a smart finish and feel, but clearly as far as the look and feel goes, Apple somehow through its iPhones manages to be a notch or two above the other smartphones that are there on offer in the market. Weighing at almost 240 grams is easily one of the most heaviest smartphones that exist in the market. For people who are used to lighter weight phones, they might have an issue with this, but as someone who used the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra or the iPhone 13 Pro Max previously, the weight is not of major consequence to someone like me. I like the bigger look, feel, and weight of my smartphone because I use it for multiple purposes, and so I'm absolutely fine with the weight. But this could be a barrier for people who are looking at lightweight smartphones. For them, this might somehow not work. Now, there are also benefits of putting up with this heavyweight phone, and one of the primary benefits is that massive 6.7-inch display. The display is an OLED one and has a resolution of 2796 by 1290, working out to the same 460 ppi pixel density of the smaller iPhone 14 Pro. Like the iPhone 14 Pro, the quality of the 14 Pro Max's screen is excellent. The colors are vivid and beautiful. Text is easy to read, and the screen is now brighter than ever before. You can expect almost 1000 nits of typical max brightness, but in direct sunlight, when more light is demanded, the iPhone 14 Pro can go all the way up to 2000 nits of brightness. So even on the sunniest of days, you shouldn't have a problem at all looking at your phone screen in outdoors. You don't have to squint your eye at all while looking at the screen or reading something on the screen. The iPhone 14 Pro Max also retains the 120 MHz refresh rate which came along with the iPhone 13 Pro Max, thus giving you ultra smooth animations whenever you're interacting with the phone. Combined with the fluid nature of iOS 16, this experience of using this phone is one of the smoothest and the snappiest amongst any smartphones that I have used this year. Another new feature is that this iPhone 14 Pro Max is one of the only phones to have an always on display, which means that pressing the power button to turn off your iPhone's display now shows a dimmed version of your lock screen, complete with notifications, lock screen widgets, and full color of your wallpaper. Always on displays have never majorly appealed to me, but I must admit that having seen the always on display on this phone, it's a fairly decent and a pleasant experience, I must add here. Now, technically the iPhone 14 Pro Max isn't any different in the display department, but it gives you more than just an incredible display to play with. From gaming, scrolling through Twitter, watching YouTube videos, and browsing sites on Safari, it all feels much bigger, much roomier on the iPhone 14 Pro Max than it has ever been on any other smartphone that I may have used. Another new feature of the iPhone 14 Pro Max is that gone is that Apple notch at the top, and you have this dynamic island feature. As you can see here, it's in the shape of a capsule. It's this small screen or widget in the shape of a capsule. It's clearly one of the most exciting iPhone features I've seen in years, and it makes me excited about what Apple can do with it. Listening to a song, swipe up to go home, and your music floats into the dynamic island to show the album artwork and a color matching waveform of what's playing. Start a timer. The dynamic island also shows incoming calls and call controls, Face ID prompts, device charging alerts, AirPods connection pop-ups, Apple Maps directions, and so much more. These are all notifications that have always existed on the phone, but the dynamic island now gives them a cohesive place to live and reside. Along with simplifying iOS's many alerts, it just gives a fun, playful character to the phone that's so charming. And the dynamic island is not always doing something, but when an app takes advantage of it, it's clearly a treat to the eyes. Now coming to the other big feature of the Apple 14 Pro Max, clearly the camera. Now Apple has upped its camera game clearly in the last couple of years with all its new launches. The camera in 13 Pro Max also was brilliant, but with the 14 Pro Max, Apple takes its camera game that much higher. With the iPhone 14 Pro Max, Apple finally gets a brand new 48 megapixel camera with a 1.78 aperture and a sensor shift optical image stabilization. Using the added resolution to the sensor, the 48 megapixel main camera can also be used as a 2x optical zoom lens. The main camera is joined by a 12 megapixel telephoto camera capable of 3x zoom, in addition to the 12 megapixel ultra wide camera with a 120-degree field of view. Also new is the 12 megapixel front facing camera, which is the first selfie camera on an iPhone with autofocus. And all of this is what you get just on a hardware level. Software wise, the iPhone 14 Pro Max utilizes Apple's new Photonic engine image pipeline, offering more lifelike colors and beautiful detailed textures in less light than ever before. Sounds very impressive, and even when you look at the photos captured with the iPhone 14 Pro Max, you clearly understand why Apple is hyping up the camera so much. Simply put, the camera on the iPhone 14 Pro Max is excellent. Whether you're shooting in good or mediocre lighting conditions, the 48 megapixel main camera consistently produces incredible results. The colors are very rich and vibrant, but more importantly, they also do a great job of remaining true to life to what an actual scene would have looked like. I was fairly impressed with the amount of detail you get with the main camera. While images from the 48 megapixel camera are pixel binned to 12 megapixel shots, you still see very fine details in pictures. Another great advantage of the 48 megapixel camera is the natural depth of field you get in the photos you take. The 48 megapixel camera also shines when the lights are low. Taking pictures in a dimly lit room isn't a challenge anymore with the iPhone 14 Pro Max. Even in a dark and pitch black room, the iPhone 14 Pro Max brings enough light to make that photo at least usable. The 12 megapixel ultra wide camera is also very good. There's an expected drop in details for these photos compared to the main camera. You're in an instance where you need a wider shot that still looks great. It's a fairly admirable performance. So all in all, I think the camera is a huge upgrade as far as the 14 Pro Max goes. Now let's talk about performance. Now performance is rarely a bone of contention with the Apple's iPhone. Even its harshest critics will agree that performance wise, the iPhone has always been on par with the best in the business, and even here it doesn't disappoint you. The iPhone 14 Pro Max comes with the Apple's new A16 Bionic chip. The A16 has a smaller design compared to that of the A15, making it faster and far more power efficient than the previous generation. Now with all these performance features added in, one big question that exists in everybody's mind is how's the battery life. Now I must add that the battery life for the iPhone 14 Pro Max is fairly decent, and if you switch off the always on display, it improves even further. So I don't think I have any issues with the battery life. Despite the power packed performance that this phone gives, the battery life isn't impacted. I would say it's even a notch or two better than the 13 Pro Max. At least that's what I feel after a day or two of usage of this phone. So I'd give the battery a huge thumbs up for this phone. Now it's available in 128, 256, 512 GB and 1 TB options in terms of storage. I have the 256 GB because I clearly have a lot of stuff to upload on iCloud. I have a 2 TB subscription for iCloud, so I'm fairly okay with the 256 GB storage on the phone. In terms of colors, the iPhone 14 Pro Max is available in space black, silver, gold and purple. Purple being the new color. They've phased out the Sierra blue. For me, I was really wanting to go with the purple, and therefore I waited for almost a month to lay my hands on this beauty. In terms of pricing, like I said, it's fairly expensive with all all these new features bunked in. I think three issues people might have with this phone. One is this expensive pricing, two is the fact that it's one of the most heaviest phones around, and three is that the fast charging is still not available on the iPhone yet. But barring this, I would say this is easily one of the smartest smartphones that are available in this market. My recommendation would be, as an Apple fan, go for it without a doubt. My rating for this phone would be a 7.5 on 10, and clearly this color is absolutely stunning. If you've purchased an iPhone 14 Pro Max, or if you intend to purchase and you've read about it, do write to us in the comment section below. If you like our video, please do subscribe to our channel, and for many more such reviews, please do keep coming back. We'll see you soon. Thank you.